32. Congratulations, you have made it to the last session of the conference, session 6, which is the Running a Medical Cannabis Practice, a business primer for medical clinicians. And so give yourself a round of applause. You've made it to the last session. Thank you, thank you. And you know, Dr. Block made an analogy yesterday about being the cleanup batter, and so that's how I feel. I love a good baseball analogy, so we're gonna hit this one out of the park. They clearly saved the best for last, so thank you to the esteemed panel for joining us. And for those of you that took note in your printed agenda, I am not Robert Friedman, so sorry to disappoint you. I can assure you I'm way better to look at, way more entertaining, and you're gonna have a lot more fun with me. All right, so my name is Jennifer Macris. I come to you by way of Tampa. I am aligned to the industry on the business and the business operations side of the industry. So it's been a wonderful experience being here and to learn and listen to the medical professionals and the clinicians and the practice owners, and really learning about that side of the business, because again, my alignment to the industry is on the operations side, and I am affiliated with the Florida Cannabis Action Network, as well as the incoming president of the Cannabis Lab, which is a law, accounting, and business organization. So happy to be here, and without further ado, I would like to hand it over to our first panelist, Ms. Kristie Harris, President and Chief Officer of the Ellen Group. Thank you, guys.
All right, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Kristie Harris, and I'm the president and founder of POT CFO Financials. And actually, it's a subsidiary to my company, the Ellen Group. And I thought it would be a great idea to come and speak to you today about just some of the things around the best practices of cannabis accounting and tax. You know, when you talk about all the things of making sure you have everything for your patients and making sure your internal operations are up to par, it's just as important for you to make sure you file those taxes and file them accordingly, and making sure you understand 280E and things of that nature. And I'm sure most of you have heard of those terms. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to labor the point. I think I have about 20 minutes before we go to the next speaker. And so here's the goal of the presentation, to just talk a little bit about the unique challenges of cannabis accounting, some of the compliance regulations, rules and regulations from the federal, state, and local levels, some accounting methods and related practices that I think is important for you as business owners to know, any IT solutions, and just the need to have specialized knowledge in this area. So who needs cannabis accounting? Who needs to really know this? Well, basically everyone that touches this industry, whether it's a cultivator, whether it's a distributor, or a retailer. It's just important for you to know what things you need to do to stay in business and be financially sustainable. And that's very, very important as you move forward. So what are some of the components of the cannabis accounting industry? Well, you have to be have compliance with various regulations. Cost accounting and inventory tracking, that's very important. Sure, again, you guys have heard of 280E, and that's basically saying that there are some expenses that you cannot deduct on your taxes and some that can, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, the chart of accounts, this is not an accounting class, but this is just a little briefing of, if you have a finance team or a CPA or an accountant that's doing your work, they should have a customized chart of accounts specifically for the cannabis industry. Any cash handling and banking issues that you have to adhere to, and tax planning and audit readiness. So just making sure you have these things in order so you can be in compliance for federal, state, and local needs. So when we talk about regulatory compliance, we're talking about these issues here. So for instance, if you're opening up a cannabis business, you have to have licenses and permits in order. Again, tax, 280E is very important. I know that a lot of you have heard of this. The federal government right now has established cannabis as a Schedule I drug. Right now it is a Schedule I drug, but if it becomes a Schedule III drug, then the 280E would definitely relax a little bit. But right now this is where we are. We talk about legal regulatory compliance. Those are anything that just keeps you operationally sufficient and making sure that you're in compliance. Health and safety environment is another thing. So when we talk about 280E, it basically prohibits most deductions with the exception of cost of goods sold. So those business expenses that cannot be deducted, like your salaries, your utilities, your rent, things of that nature. We talk about cost of goods sold, we're talking about those raw materials or that direct labor that specifically aligns with production. Those are the things that can be deducted. So it's important for your accountant, again, to know what those things are. Because if not, I've heard of businesses closing, I've heard of healthy penalties, things of that nature, and you definitely don't want that. So make sure that your finance team is very aware of what 280E is all about. When we talk about the use of perpetual inventory systems, like seed of sale, is so many more out there. Just make sure you have your system in order so you'll be able to track your inventory. Again, cost of goods eligible versus non-eligible expenses, I went over that. And the business verticals, anything from cultivation all the way up to retail, cultivation, getting that seed in ground, all the way to the final sale. Those are things that must be inventoried very well and processed throughout the process. And I spoke a little bit about 280E. So let's talk a little bit about understanding bank implications. So I'm sure most of you have to report to your board, have to report to investors. And so if you have banking needs, it's important for you to have your financial records in order. It's important for you to have sufficient cash on hand and making sure that you have your compliance and reporting requirements in order. If you do not have these items or these issues in order, you risk having your company closed. And so with banking relationships, just make sure that you have an established partner or collaboration with your bank, because additionally, in the future, you will have a need for additional capital, for instance. And so most of you, I'm sure, have banking relationships. With additional capital, if you don't have these things in order, like your accounting infrastructure in order, or your audits done accordingly, then you risk not being able to have the sufficient capital to run your business. So please make sure that you establish good banking relationships with people that you're working with. Investors will need this, board members will need this, the community partners will need this information. And so there are people that can actually help you set this up. Some of the IT software solutions, for instance, cloud-based solutions. I heard a gentleman back there talk about sometimes it's difficult for patients to, get what they need. There's so many different software opportunities out there, software solutions, cloud-based. You can, have information readily available for you in real time. So if you're running a business and you need to see what your financials look like, your revenues or your expenses, or your accountant need to get that information, they can go have a cloud-based solution readily available to get that information. So make sure you have those tools in place in your operations so you don't have to worry about getting that information accordingly. Seed to sale, banking and payroll solutions. There's so many different things out there, IT software, that you can take and use within your business to get that going. All right, so what are important next steps here? It's important for you to have specialized industry knowledge in this, and so your finance team should be very well versed in getting that information for you. There's a shortage of accountants that have experience in cannabis accounting, but there are some accountants like myself or CPA services that we can offer that information and services to you, but your financial team should be well versed in making sure that you have the necessary and proper services for that. There's ongoing education required. There's industry development and best practices available for your team to be very well versed in getting this information for you and operating your business accordingly. So these are just a couple of blurbs about having accurate financial statements. Maintaining accurate and up-to-date financial records is crucial for the success and long-term sustainability of your business. Accurate records help businesses track income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And if this is something that your financial team need training on or additional information, there are people out there that is trained to get this stuff in there for you. And these are just some basic financial statements that is important for you to have as you're operating your business, and just making sure that your financial team have prepared balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. Those are basic financial statements. If someone tells you they're not able to do that, then that's a problem. There's so many different software solutions out there that can get this information to you within a click of a draw. Very, very easy to do. So just make sure that you work with your accountant, work with your financial team to get this information for you. If you have someone that can do this, you can spend less time operating your day-to-day actions and more doing strategic visioning for your company. And that's important for long-term sustainability. Budget and financial planning, just making sure you set those financial goals, creating a budget, managing cash flow, allocating funds strategically. Those are the things that are important for you to incorporate into your day-to-day operations, and making sure you have someone readily available to conduct those things for you. Having effective management, proper cash flow management is crucial for the financial health of any business. For instance, many cannabis businesses operate primarily in cash. Therefore, implementing strict cash management practices is key. Having good internal controls in place is key. It's important, because if you do not have those in place, then you risk having major errors, fraudulent activities, and those are the things that will definitely cause your business to fall under. If you have any questions about what I've discussed with you today, please feel free to contact me. This is what I do as a professional right now. Again, thank you so much for your time and attention, and hope you have the rest of your day to do what you need to do. Thank you so much.
And we'll get questions for and so thank you, Kristie. Really what I conversation is under implications, right? Compliance. Audit readiness is really important. Something that hit close to home, and what my company specializes in is the cash handling procedures, so reducing the risk and the increasing the efficiency of cash. And there's also a cost to managing cash, so any sort of cash heavy readiness and preparation was really key, from your transit to your on-site handling of cash, those SOPs. So really important point there. Budget and financial planning is important, making sure your IT services and IT solutions are in place, and then understanding the 280E implications. So with that being said, and that beautiful recap, I'm going to hand it over to our next speaker, which is Brad Hunt, Director of Risk Resources from AssuraCure.